What is up everybody, it's Jake here back with another video, and this is the brand new Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. The Galaxy S6 Edge was one of the best smartphones of 2015, and let's see if Samsung can keep up with the S7 Edge for this year. Instead of a redesign, the S7 Edge is more of a refinement of its predecessor, so it looks a lot like the S6 Edge. It has a sandwich unibody design, so glass on the front and back, metal frame along the sides. This is a very well built phone. It gives you a very premium feel when you hold it in the hand, and it feels very comfortable too because not only the front is curved, the back is also curved now. And they also made the metal frame more rounded so it fits in your hand very nicely. The S7 Edge is actually thicker than its predecessor, but it doesn't feel like it at all because the metal frame is so thin. It's a little slippery but not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And just like most of the phones with a glass back, it's a serious fingerprint magnet. But you have to admit that this is a very good looking phone, especially in the silver titanium. The back is almost like a mirror. Speaking of the back, there's a 12 megapixel camera. We'll talk about that in a second, but as you can see, the camera is pretty much flat. There's almost no camera bump thanks to its thicker body. So making the phone thicker, not only they can put a bigger battery in there, the camera also fits better, so thank you Samsung. And you probably can't tell, but they made this phone IP68 certified dust and water resistant without putting any rubber covers on any of the ports, which is a huge plus in my opinion. Below the screen there's a home button doubles as a fingerprint scanner. It works pretty good, it's fast, but just like I mentioned in my hands-on video, it's not as accurate. If you twist your finger a little, it's not gonna work. So you kinda have to place your finger exactly on the spot because the surface area is a little small. But I'm not gonna complain about it, it still works great. On the front there's a gorgeous 5.5-inch Quad HD Super AMOLED display that has a resolution of 2560 by 1440 and a pixel density of 534 pixels per inch. It's also curved along the sides and it's a flexible display. The phone is not flexible, but the panel inside is flexible, just like the S6 Edge. In terms of how it looks, I gotta say it's one of the best displays I've ever seen on a smartphone. It's very sharp and clear, color still pops just like you would expect from an AMOLED, but it's vivid and not too over the top. You can get true blacks out of the AMOLED display since it turns off the pixels that are not in use. And it gets very bright for outdoor use. Viewing angle is great, but I do have to point out that there's a very noticeable color shift right where it curves. But it's not a deal breaker, and the curved display is really cool. It gives you that waterfall effect when you're scrolling, so yeah, the display on the S7 Edge will not disappoint you. On the back there's a new 12 megapixel camera that has a huge f1.7 aperture, which is the widest on any smartphone so far. Compared to the 60 megapixel sensor on last year's S6, is it a downgrade? No. Daylight photos look fantastic, color is vivid and accurate, exposure is on point, and dynamic range is very good as well. And you get so much detail out of those 12 megapixels, so you don't have to worry about the resolution drop from last year. But if you want the full 12 megapixel resolution, you're only getting 4:3 aspect ratio instead of 16:9, which I think is totally fine. A lot of people actually prefer 4:3. Low light photos look pretty good too. There's a lot of light thanks to its huge 1.7 aperture, and there's also optical image stabilization, so photos won't be blurred out very easily due to longer exposure time. But there is some digital noise appearing here and there. Color starts to be washed out. But the good thing is you can still get a lot of detail in those pictures. I'm really impressed. In terms of 4K video recording, the OIS works great. Picture quality looks good too, even in low light conditions. I do have to point out that the autofocus on the S7 Edge is incredible. Everything gets into focus in a matter of milliseconds. I think it's the fastest autofocus I've ever seen on any smartphone, period. The camera app on the S7 Edge is fast and easy to use. Double press the home button will bring you right to the viewfinder, and the interface is very simple, so you have different switches on the left for HDR, flash, timer, etc. On the right is just your shutter button. Taking pictures is really fast. and it's one of the fastest HDR camera that I've seen. It takes about the same time as a regular shot, which is awesome. There's different modes too, so there's auto mode that most of the people use in their daily basis. And there's pro mode. It's pretty much like a manual mode that gives you a whole bunch of different controls. And there's panorama, slow motion, time-lapse video, and you can even live stream on YouTube right from your phone, which is pretty cool. Under the hood of the S7 Edge is rocking the latest octa-core Samsung Exynos 8890 processor. It might be different in your country, but 4 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of internal storage, and it's expandable via the microSD card slot. A lot of people are probably gonna ask which one is better on the S7 Edge, the Exynos 8890 or the Snapdragon 820. Well, I don't have a Snapdragon 820 device to compare with, but I can tell you that this Exynos version of the S7 Edge performs like a boss. Gaming on this thing is a pleasure. In some of the racing games like the S4 8, there's no lags or frame drops to be found. Everything is smooth, and don't forget it has a Quad HD display, which is harder to power, but it still handles 3D games like a champ. It does get a little bit warm sometimes, but it's totally acceptable. So the performance on this phone is top notch without a doubt. But the bottom mounted speaker is not that great. It's not bad, but it's definitely not the best. It sounds a bit tinny, and it sounds like it's muffled up by something. The overall sound is just not pleasant to my ears. And because it's at the bottom, it's really easy to be covered by my fingers when I'm gaming or doing other stuff. Let's go ahead and unbox it. Samsung went with the all black top box this time, which in my opinion looks tape right here, which is kind of annoying, so you know what that means. This time the S7 Edge is running the latest version of TouchWiz on top of Android 6.0.1 Marshmallow. Surprisingly, I actually like the TouchWiz more than ever before. It used to be clunky, laggy, and slow, but Samsung totally changed that. It's a tuned down version of the old TouchWiz. You won't find as much bloatware, it's now snappy, apps open very quickly, multitasking is great as well. There's no stutter when I switch between apps. It's very responsive no matter what I throw at it. Along with the Exynos 8890 and 4 gigs of RAM, this phone runs buttery smooth. There's barely lags, at least for now. The user interface is now much organized. It no longer has that confusing settings menu. Everything is put together very well. But I still don't really like the way it looks, but you can always snap on a launcher, so it doesn't really matter. I do want to talk a little bit about the Edge feature. It's activated by swiping from the left or right. You can always change that in the settings, and you get quick access to certain things. There's People Edge, News, Tasks Edge, and Apps Edge. All it does is it gives you quick shortcuts to some of your contacts and some apps that you might use very often. And you can add more edges in the settings if you want, such as weather, stock information, etc. You can even download from the store if you want more edge panels. My thoughts on this is it's a cool idea, but it's not as useful as I expect it to be. And I think very few people are gonna use it because if you use some of the apps very often, you'll for sure put them on the home screen. And if you have a few edge panels, you still have to swipe around in order to find the things that you want. So it's actually not that quick. So the edge panel feature is not as good as I thought it was going to be in terms of convenience. But overall, TouchWiz has become so much better now. I'm having a lot of fun using it. The Galaxy S7 Edge has a relatively large 3600 mAh battery. I'm actually kind of surprised that they're able to fit a battery of this size into such a thin body. I'm usually getting about 4.5 to 5 hours of screen on time, which is really good for a phone this size, this powerful, and has a high-res display. So the battery life is not gonna disappoint you. You can walk around without a charger for a full day and you don't have to worry about the phone dying on you. So there you guys have it. It's been my review of the Galaxy S7 Edge. It has one of the best displays, one of the best cameras, good battery life, plus the latest specs. And yeah, it's got some flaws here and there, such as no IR blaster, no USB Type-C, which might be a deal breaker for some of the people, but you gotta admit that this is the best phone that Samsung has ever put out. And design wise, it really stands out from the other flagships out there thanks to the Edge display. So do I recommend this phone? Yes. Hell yeah. It's fast, it's gorgeous, it's gonna be one of the best smartphones of this year, and if you got yours, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Anyways, leave a comment down below, let me know what you guys think about the S7 Edge. Please leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe for more tech videos like this one. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.